This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, fine then. So Kubernetes. So what is Kubernetes? Kubernetes is a orchestration mechanism for your Docker containers. So to manage your containers, we need Kubernetes. So where exactly it should manage? In a cluster. Okay, to manage your containers in a cluster, you need Kubernetes. Okay, so why we should be deploying in a cluster? Okay, what is cluster? Fine. So why it should manage? Okay, so all that we'll understand now. Okay, and without Kubernetes, what exactly happens? Okay, why? What is the necessity of using Kubernetes? That and all we should be knowing it. Okay, so any topic for your learning. So why is it required is very important. So let's try to understand now. Okay, so let me open PPT. Fine. So where exactly your container runs in any one of the VM, right? Okay, so you think that particular VM has a node. Okay, I'm not saying in physical machine it cannot run, but since we are into cloud, so that is the reason I'm taking an example of virtual machine, which is EC2 instance. Okay, inside that you will be installing your Docker runtime, and there you'll have your container and it would be running over there. Okay, fine now. So now you create one container. Okay, so which is Docker container. So that particular container is running here. So you have one container, it is running here. So only one container will not be sufficient if your project is has more user base, like some thousands of users are using it. So then definitely you need to have multiple containers. Okay, so let's say on the same node you have 3 containers. Okay, so you, let's say based on the user base, you are increasing it. So definitely we need to have a auto scaling mechanism first of all. So somehow you actually found that actually you need these many containers, and you could able to increase the capacity, and there are 3 containers are running as of now. Okay, yes, only one VM is there, and you can actually run even 50 containers also, not an issue. Okay, so your application is working properly. Okay, so it is getting scaled also. But the problem here is there is something called high availability. Okay, so high availability meaning always your application should be up and running. Correct, right? So that is the reason. So in AWS, we learned one concept called auto scaling. Okay, so you actually maintain this minimum number of servers. So you could actually specify the minimum and maximum over there. So always the minimum number of servers, it would be maintaining it. If anything goes wrong also, automatically other virtual machine would be gets created. But here the problem is the Docker container related one. Okay, so if any container goes down, let's say we have some mechanism to make other container make it up, not an issue. So if this particular container goes down, let's say one more container is getting created. So that is fine. But the problem is if this entire node goes down, see, ultimately you are running your containers within a virtual machine. If this entire virtual machine goes down, then your application will be down. Even though that particular virtual machine contains like 50, 60 or whatever, doesn't matter, right? Because with that entire physical server, I mean that virtual machine is going down, then your application will not be working. Correct, right? So that is the reason. What could be the best idea to have it? Can anyone tell me? So currently I installed my, there is one VM and I have multiple containers running over there. Okay, if this particular node goes down, if that virtual machine goes down, then my entire application would be down. So what we should do it to make the application always accessible? Any idea? Forget about the tools. I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, so in that case, we can put auto scaling on top of VMs, so that if this one VM goes down, the other one comes up.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of deploying your particular container on only one particular VM, it is always better to have multiple VMs, right? Multiple VMs. Okay. So this is one more VM, and let's say I have 4 containers over here. So 4 containers over here. Instead of creating all the containers in this particular VM only, so you actually distribute it. Okay, so 2 containers in this VM, other 2 containers in this VM. If this VM goes down, anyway this VM would be up and those 2 containers will be still serving it. Okay, so then your application permanently will not go down at all, right? So that's how, right? So now, and now the question is, yes, we have auto scaling which is in AWS, and why do we need to have Kubernetes over here? Okay, so we have auto scaling, so we can actually scale your virtual machines. Okay, and you can create a container separately, right? And why do we need to have it? Okay, why do we need to have a Kubernetes? So the reason is, so this automatically having this particular stuff, meaning the multiple containers. Okay, so sorry, not multiple containers, multiple virtual machines, that we have it as a cluster. I mean, that we call it as a cluster. Okay, when we have multiple virtual machines, okay, so as a group, that we call it as a cluster. Okay, in a cluster, okay, to manage your containers, we need Kubernetes. So I said, let's say I have a 4 containers here. Who creates that? Who creates these containers? Kubernetes will be creating a containers 4, 5 or whatever, and it is also, it should auto scale, right? Based on user base, it should scale up, right? So who does that? Kubernetes does it for you. And I said, if this particular virtual machine goes down, let's say there are, it is distributed something like this. Who distributes that? Kubernetes distributes that. Okay, now if this particular node goes down, so this is not working. Okay, then you have only 2, but it should maintain 4 containers, right? So so anyway, one more virtual machine will be up, but in the meantime, these 2 containers also, you should place it over here, right? Okay, so these 2 containers also, it should place it here. Okay, so like one more, it should place it here. So who does that? Kubernetes does it for you. Okay, so that is, we call it as orchestration or managing the containers. Managing the containers inside your cluster. Okay, so to manage your containers inside your cluster, manage meaning, okay, it's not only creating, right? Okay, so always it should have an eye on that particular container. Okay, if one container goes down, other should be automatically up. Okay, so it should maintain the minimum number of containers. Okay, so and also it should distribute the containers evenly in the virtual machines, right? So in a cluster, if you have 6 virtual machines, and if you have like 12 containers, it should evenly distribute that containers, right? Like 2 to 2 in each one of it. Okay, so who does that? Who manages that? So Kubernetes will be doing it for you. Okay, if one virtual machine is down, so but the containers which exist in that virtual machine should be added to other containers, right? Okay, even that job is done by the Kubernetes for you. So that is the reason we need Kubernetes. Okay, to maintain your containers in a cluster, we need Kubernetes. Okay, otherwise who handles that? Okay, manually you can't do it. Okay, so that is the reason we need Kubernetes. Okay, is this the only option we have it? No, we have other options as well, but Docker Swarm and all. Okay, so these are the options. So I'll just show you. Docker Swarm, Kubernetes, okay, Mesas or whatever. So that is from Apache, and Docker Swarm is Docker technology only. Okay, so but the problem is, so Docker Swarm we rarely use it. The reason is Docker has its own orchestration technology. So the reason why Docker Swarm we don't use it is, so master and slave will be the same mission. So that's the reason we don't use it. But in I'll come to the what is master, what is slave. But whereas in Kubernetes, so master is a separate one and nodes are separate. Okay, so that's the reason Kubernetes is more popular nowadays. So that is the reason we are also learning Kubernetes. Okay, so fine then. So the Kubernetes advantages: your application is highly available irrespective of hardware failures. Okay, so the reason is we are auto scaling it. Fine. Multiple instances of same application is running on many nodes. Okay, so user traffic is load balanced across various containers. Fine. So when demand increases, deploy more instances of applications. Correct, right? So we can do that. Okay, so we have the ability to do that service level and node level. So that anyway I'll explain it. Okay, scale up and scale down happens without having to take down the applications. Okay, so then deploy the application updates. So this is also one of the advantage. So without making it down while deploying any other application, so you don't need to down the I mean to undeploy and then deploy it. You don't need to do that. Okay, so silently you can actually deploy your applications in your containers. Okay, so there is something called rollback and auto update, something the some options are there. I'll anyway come back to that particular options. Okay, so that is also one advantage. Okay, so updates without any downtime. Okay, so without making the application down, you could deploy your application. Okay, not first time, like later on whenever you make some changes, if you wish to deploy that particular changes. So okay, so you don't need to make the application down. Without that, you can actually deploy your application by using Kubernetes. Okay, so this is what I have explained already. Okay, in a cluster how exactly it works. When you say cluster, there will be multiple virtual machines. Okay, so node and virtual machine both are same, like, so we have a containers over here, so evenly it is distributed. Okay, so cluster is a set of nodes. Fine, so you can share the loads. So whenever we say Kubernetes, there will be a master and nodes. Okay, so in a master, so master can be like it can be in one node or multiple nodes. So we will be using something called EKS in AWS. Okay, so now what is EKS is the question, right? Okay, so EKS is a service to accommodate your Kubernetes in AWS. Okay, so it in the EKS only we can create the clusters. Okay, so cluster, and in that particular cluster you could deploy it. Okay, by default Kubernetes support would be available in the EKS. Okay, so that is exclusive AWS service for your Kubernetes. Okay, anyway we'll be using that particular one. But whereas when it comes to the installation, how do you install it? So there are two ways by using you can do it. One is only by using one VM you can install it. Okay, in only one VM you can have a feel of your cluster and you can install that particular one. Okay, so anyway we'll be initially doing that, and later on we go to the EKS related stuff. Okay, so we'll initially install in one particular node itself. Okay, and later on we will move to the other one. Okay, so 1 second. So we'll use Minikube. Okay, so this is Minikube. I'll come back to this one. Using a Minikube, we could actually install Kubernetes, and so when you use Minikube, you don't need to have a cluster. Only by using one VM, you could install your Kubernetes and verify. Okay, so in the Kubernetes, we will be writing some YML files. Okay, so those YML files will be the same whether you use a Minikube or a cluster mechanism. Both will be the same. So like I said, initially we'll be using Minikube. Later on, we'll go to the EKS cluster. Okay, so that's how it is. Now, I was talking about this mechanism, right? So whenever we say cluster, so there will be a master and nodes. So what exactly we keep it in the master, what exactly we keep it in the nodes. So we will understand, okay, a little later. But as of now, whenever we say Kubernetes, definitely there will be some components inside that, right? So with that components only, Kubernetes manages your containers. Okay. So how exactly it happens? So let us try to understand that. So these are all the components you will be having in your Kubernetes. So API server, etcd, kubelet, scheduler, controller, and controller runtime. Okay. So what each one does, we should be knowing it, right? Okay. So any questions till now before I go to the components and explain it?
Prasad, the EKS is the only way to create Kubernetes cluster, right? Or is there any
In
other way?
in AWS.
In AWS, okay. So in premise, on premise will be a different one.
Yeah, on-premise can be a different one. In Google provides its own service. In Azure provides its own service. It's all depends on the cloud platform which you are using it.
Okay. So AWS uses EKS and Minikube is for a standalone VM server, right? To have a
Exactly.
okay, yeah, got it. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so see, whichever the service you are, I mean, whichever the cloud platform you are using, the same.
Prasad, your voice is breaking.
The
I can hardly hear you.
Kubernetes
It's not clear.
Uh, Prasad, your voice is breaking. I can hardly hear you.
concepts will be doesn't change. It will be the same. It just differs. EKS, the platform. Okay, so why do we need EKS? Internally, it should do everything. So what we automatically see your data for that very AWS load back. Okay, looks like there are some audio problem. Am I audible now?
Oh, yes, Prasad, now you
Yes,
are
yes.
audible. Could you please repeat?
Yeah, I'll
We lost you for around 20 to 30 seconds.
no problem, no problem. Yeah. So I was talking about AWS cloud form. I mean AWS. I mean cloud from deployment related stuff. So like I said, each cloud platform will be having its own service. But
Still breaking your voice.
Again, the problem is.
it platform's own platform utilize. Okay. Okay. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah, it is
yes.
much better.
Okay. Fine then. So anyway, so I was talking about the EKS. I said EKS is Kubernetes service in AWS. Okay, so like that, you will be having related services in other platforms as well. But internally, the core technology will be the same. Whether it is a Google platform, whether it is a Microsoft one, which is Azure, or Bluemix, which is IBM one, or your AWS, everywhere the Kubernetes will not be changed. meaning we'll be writing some, we'll be creating some pods. Okay, so for that we'll be writing some YML script, and there will be a services related technology. So that doesn't change, that will be the same. Okay, so there will be a services file as well. Okay, so and deployment file as well. Okay, so those will not be changed, that will be the same. Okay, that doesn't change. Okay, just that the cluster management technology and the network related technology changes. Okay, so what do you mean by that? The load balancer related. Okay, so AWS uses its own load balancer. Okay, so that particular service, load balancer service, like Target load balancers, all that it uses internally. Okay, so auto scaling mechanism also your AWS, the networking related also AWS related networking. Okay, so like that, even in other technology, other cloud platforms, that particular service will be using its own services to have that mechanism. Okay, so anyway, so that is about it. Now let us come to the components. So I said there is something called API server. Okay, so why do we need this API server? Is because of this particular reason. So API server acts as a front end server for Kubernetes. So you will be talking to the APIs. Okay, so APIs like services. Okay, so that would be deployed in this particular API server. So now to talk to your Kubernetes, how do you do it? Okay, I said you will be writing some files and all, right? You will be creating some files and all, right? That files to be should be executed, right? How do you make it execute? Using this API server. We should talk to the API server. Okay, then API server will talk to your other components of the Kubernetes. Okay, so this is the interface between you and the Kubernetes. Okay, through this API server only, we will have to initiate all the commands. Okay, so it can be creating, it can be deploying. Okay, so anything, whichever the file you wish to execute it. Okay, so that particular file should go through this particular API server only. Okay, so it acts as a front end for your Kubernetes. Okay, so anyway, I'll come to that. There is one more component is required, we should be installing that. So I'll come back to that. But as of now, API server acts as a front end server for Kubernetes. But how to talk to API server is a different mechanism. I'll come to that. Okay, so that is one component, which is API server. Okay, so these are all important here, even in interview perspective. So you should be knowing it. So that is API server. But then we have something called etcd. So this is actually key value pair collection. Okay, so why do we need to have it? It is like a storage mechanism. Okay, like you have multiple VMs. Okay, so multiple networking related, there will be so many IP addresses. Okay, and the container names, IDs, or whatever. Okay, so each there will be something called parts. What is the IP address of each part? So all that will be stored in this particular etcd. It's a key value pair. The information about your Kubernetes, okay, the metadata of your Kubernetes will be stored in your etcd. Okay, so that is the reason this is very much important. Okay, so all the information, the metadata about your Kubernetes will be stored over here. So that is etcd. Fine. Then we have a scheduler. So why do we need to have a scheduler? Scheduler is to distribute work across all the containers. Okay, nodes are containers. So like I said, so we have like 6 virtual machines and 16 containers. Okay, so who actually distribute that particular containers in this particular VM? It should have 2, it should have in the other VM it should have 3, like that. Who distributes it? Who schedules it? Okay, scheduler does the job for you. Okay, so it evenly distributes that particular containers across all nodes. Okay, so that is the job of scheduler. Fine. So all these components are part of your Kubernetes. Okay, API server, etcd, scheduler. Then we have something called controller. This is the brain behind your Kubernetes. Okay, so very important component in Kubernetes. Okay, so main brain behind the Kubernetes. So if some container goes down, automatically it should create a new one, right? Okay, so how exactly it happens? So controller does it for you. There will be something called kubelet you will be installing in each node. Okay, so controller will be keep on verifying using the kubelet. Is that particular container reachable or not? If it is reachable, then it does nothing. If it is not reachable, then it has to accommodate that particular container in some other virtual machine, right? So who does this? The controller does it for you. Okay, so that is the reason the controller is very important. It would be always verifying whether any container is working or not. So if any one container goes down, automatically other would be created by the controller. Okay, so then see, you can stop me if you are not getting something. Okay, so I'm happy to help you. Fine, and these are all very important ones. Fine. Okay, so container runtime. So in this case, we are using Docker anyway. So here container runtime will be Docker. So we'll have to install Docker in all the VMs. Okay, so that is important. Container runtime. Fine. So then we have kubelet. So this is kind of a agent in each and every node. So using this particular agent only, so the controller will usually collects the information from other VMs. Okay, in each and every node, this kubelet will be running. So it will be collecting the information. So what exactly whether the containers are running properly or not. Okay, the memory related stuff, everything, that information, this kubelet will be collecting the information, and controller will be retrieving the information by using kubelet itself. Okay, so this is an agent, so definitely it has to be available in each and every node. Kubelet is a agent to runs on each and every node of a cluster. Okay, responsible to make sure containers are running in that particular node. Okay, so these are all the components. So meaning the API server, etcd, kubelet, scheduler, controller, and controller runtime. I hope this is clear for you. Any questions on components?
Prasad, that is controller runtime or container runtime?
Okay, so
That is container, right? I guess.
container.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, got it. Okay, yeah.
Okay, fine then. So this should come.
So basically, we can tell like how the infrastructure orchestration looks like the same way. Kubernetes also having the same concept, right? Master slave.
100%. Yeah. Now we need to understand in this. See, I said master and slave, right? So which one fits into which node is the question. Okay, so I'm saying master and nodes, right? So now in the nodes, you will be having the container runtime and the kubelet. Okay, so apart from that, everything will be available in the master. So meaning the API server, the controller, okay, so the scheduler, all three will be running in the master. Okay, but the container runtime and kubelet will be running on the nodes. Okay, so that is the reason we need master and the nodes. Fine. When we use EKS, master would be maintained by the AWS for you. You don't need to have you don't need to separately install the Kubernetes in EKS. Okay, AWS will maintain the master nodes for you. Okay, I can't even see that master nodes, but definitely you can specify how many VMs you needed. Your nodes, you can specify it, but that would be maintained by you, but not the master nodes. Very, very important concept. Okay, so in AWS EKS, master nodes will be maintained by AWS. You don't maintain it. You can't even see that particular virtual machine. Okay, so you can't open those virtual machines and verify it, but nodes will be maintained by you in the EKS cluster. I'm talking about EKS. I'm not talking about Minikube. Okay, so let us try to understand what fits into which. Okay, so when you use EKS cluster, like I said, definitely in the master, So Cube API server, the API server will be there in the master etcd, and controller and scheduler will be there in the master. So kubelet and container runtime will be there in the worker node, which is your node. Okay, so that's how it is. So when we use Minikube, it will be like this, because we will be using only one node, right? In that node only everything would be installed. All the components will be there in only one node. Okay, the API server, etcd, controller, scheduler, kubelet, everything will be there in only one particular server. Okay, so that is about Minikube. Okay, now this is also very important in a Kubernetes. So we will be using parts, replication controllers, okay, replica sets, deployment and services. So what each one does. Okay, so pod is like, you can have containers. So it is placeholder for your containers. You don't directly deploy your containers in a Kubernetes. So it will be inside a pod only. Okay, so the container will be inside your pod. So why do we need it? The reason is each pod will have its own IP address. Each pod will have its own IP address. Okay, so theoretically in a pod we can have more than 250 containers, but practically it is one-to-one mapping. Practically it is one-to-one mapping. Okay, so it is like this. In one particular pod, like you can have a database related pod, you can have a front-end related pod, everything you can have it in only one particular pod. Okay, but practically we don't do it. The reason for that is we work on microservices. Okay, so when we say microservices, it's like this, right? So everything will be individually deployed. Okay, so now if one part goes down, everything will be down, right? Even other service also goes down. So that we shouldn't have it. So that is the reason practically we create one part, one container. Okay, but theoretically, yes, it is the list. You can have multiple parts in a container. That's how it is. Now onwards, whenever we say pod, you need to think pod is a container. It holds a container. Internally, only one container will be there. Okay, so that's how it is. Okay, so pod is kind of a boundary for your containers. Inside a pod you can have multiple containers, but practically we'll have only one container. So how do you create a pod? We create a pod by using a YML script. Okay, so few already know what is YML, but few will not be knowing it. Anyway, I'll be explaining how to create a YML script. That doesn't take much time, and later on we'll be creating a parts ourselves. Okay, so that is a part. Then again we have something called a replication controller and replica sets that is required to create multiple parts in a Kubernetes. Okay, multiple parts in a Kubernetes by using auto scaling mechanism as well. Okay, so then we have something called service and deployment. Even these two are very much important. Okay, so why do we need to have a service and why do we need to have a deployment? So in detail I'll be explaining each one of it, and for each one of it we can create a YML file, and we could actually execute that particular YML file with the help of API server in your Kubernetes. Okay, so apart from these particular components and these files, we have something called kubectl. Kubectl. Okay, I'm not talking about kubelet. Kubelet is a different one, and kubectl is a different one. Okay, so what is kubectl? Kubectl is a command line interface to talk to your cluster. Okay, to talk to your Kubernetes, I would say. To talk to the Kubernetes API server, we need to have a command line interface, which is kubectl. Okay, command line interface, which is kubectl. Okay, so that also we should be installing it along with this particular Minikube. So first we should be installing a Minikube, and after that we should also have kubelet. But when you install Minikube, you'll get kubelet as well. But whenever you are trying to install in EKS related, definitely there is a different setup, because that doesn't come, the kubelet doesn't come with the sorry, kubectl doesn't come with the EKS. You'll have to install it separately. Anyway, that process is different. I'll be explaining that particular topic little later. So as of now, what we should be doing is we should actually install Minikube. Okay, so in any one of the VM. Okay, so the VM currently, okay, before I go to that, any questions?
Yes, Prasad, so these pods, replication controller, replica sets, all these things, where we are going to define it in case of a master slip concept, is it in the master node that we are going to do that?
It is not a component. Pod is a component, deploy and service is a concept actually. So it is kind of a boundary, and that is not a component. So when we say pod, what exactly happens? So it is like I said, pod will be having the container inside it, right? So it creates a pod. When we see, there will be a pod definition file. So we will be specifying this is what I needed. So for example, I'll show you one definition file of the pod. So this is like this. So it's a dictionary, right? So 1 second. Okay, you can think like this. Okay, so this is like a one of the definition. So this is replication controller. This is a YML script, right? So you can create one particular YML file with this particular script, and you could actually execute that particular file with the help of kubectl, and it talks to the API server and it creates a pod for you. So when you say pod, inside that particular pod there will be a container running. That where exactly that pod would be available in the node, correct? It's not in the master.
Okay, got it, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Prasad.
So everything will be there in the node, apart from the components which I have explained. Meaning, in the master, you will have only this much. 1 second, I'll just show you the diagram. So in the master, you will have only this much. Okay, but the parts, okay, the services, the deployment, everything will be there in the node itself.
Yeah. Thank you, Prasad.
Okay, so this is about Minikube installation. Okay, so now we need to have one virtual machine. So definitely you cannot use the T2 micro. So you need a little bigger processor. So you need to use T2 small. Okay, and two CPUs is mandatory. Okay, one CPU will not be sufficient, and definitely it is chargeable. Okay, so that is the reason whenever you are not using it, immediately you should stop that particular virtual machine. Then only you should install it. Okay, so fine. So then only you should use it. Fine. So let me just go to the installation instructions. Then I'll show you how to do that. So then you should also do the same. Like 6 months back, only one CPU was sufficient, but now they are not allowing one CPU. Definitely there should be two CPUs. Okay, so these are I mean, we should have a EC2 instance. Okay, so that is fine. Once we have a EC2 instance, then this is the process to install kubectl. So then you should install Docker in that particular
Prasad, your voice is
know
breaking.
how to install
Your
Docker.
voice is
Your
breaking.
voice is
It is
breaking.
like apt get update only. So anyway, this will install the Docker. Then this is to install the Minikube. Okay. So then you can verify the Minikube install. Okay. So then you can start Minikube using this one. Okay. So now we'll do it now. Okay. From how long here?
It's fine, Prasad, now. You were just explaining the steps and it was not clear, but now it's fine.
Okay, fine. So anyway, I'll just follow this process, and before that we should have a virtual machine. So let me create one virtual machine with T2 small and two virtual CPUs. Log in first to my instance, sorry, to my AWS account. Later on we'll try to create a instance, then install this. I'm not sharing my screen. One moment, I'll share it.
Prasad, one more question. So this Minikube, are we really using practically in our environments when it comes to working environments? Are we really using this, or is it just a concept for to understand ourselves?
Yeah, for development environment, we use Minikube only. Environment
Okay.
we use Minikube. We shouldn't be using cluster, right? That is not a
Correct.
cost-effective solution.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. Okay, so let me launch an instance. As I said, definitely you should be using T2 small. Okay, so I'm using Ubuntu. So 16.4. Here I am talking about. So T2 small with these two CPUs. I don't have, this is one CPU, so I can't use this one. So let me check, is there any small? There is T3. Okay, so T3 small, two CPUs, T3.
Prasad, just curious to know what is this T2 and T3? What does that symbolize?
Which this one you are talking about?
Yeah, the small and nano that I know, but what is this denotation T2, T3? What does that tell? Okay.
No, that is hardware related. Yeah, that is processor related. We will have to go through the details.
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
Yeah. Fine. So I'm just selecting T2 medium as of now. So you can either select T3 small, this one, or this one. So I'm just saying T2 medium and 2 CPUs, but T2 CPUs are mandatory. You can't use micro, that is for sure. Okay. So I'm just reviewing it. That's it. Okay. So T2 medium and 2 CPUs have selected. And again, I'm saying it is chargeable. So as soon as your job is done, you should stop it. Okay, fine. So this is my public IP address. Let me log in. For some reason it is not getting connected. What is the issue?
I think need to check security group once for that. Connection timeout means like
No. By default, 22 will be there here.
okay.
WG Harshit. It's the same. There's a default. So okay. Yeah, that was a problem. By mistake, that is been deleted. Some of them.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So we are here. So I was talking about the instructions, right? Where was that? Yeah. So SSH anyway, that is being done. Now installing kubectl. Okay, so Let me go to this one. So as usual, first of all, let me say apt get update. So this is common practice. So I'm just using curl. So chmod stuff, execute permission they are trying to give to that. Then they are copying that particular file to bin folder. Okay, so it's done. Okay, so this part is done. Installing kubectl is done. Now it is trying to install Docker. So this we have already done it earlier. This is not new to us. So first of all, let us say apt get update first. Then sudo, anyway we don't need to use it, so use this. So and install Docker. So -y option is like silently gets executed. It doesn't ask you yes or no stuff. Fine then. So install minikube. So kubectl we have installed. I said it is required to talk to the API server. Then Docker runtime, container runtime, we need to have it. So I'm installing minikube now. So let's say okay. So that's it. So we can check the minikube version. So this is 1.12.0. So now become a root user. Anyway, we are root user, and we need to start the minikube. Okay. So if everything is fine, it starts. Otherwise, if you are using only one CPU and all, it doesn't work. Okay. So sorry, requires connect to install root. That's what I mean. They are keep changing the instructions here to be installed in root patch. Is there anything? Each time when I do this, there will be something issue they do it. Okay, so I'm not sure about this configuration, so I'll check this and I'll explain it tomorrow. Okay, so today I'll just verify this issue. Okay, so usually it should just start it and you should be able to have the Kubernetes. I mean, you can create the files, but anyway, so I'll verify this and I'll explain this tomorrow. But you can actually do one thing, at least till this particular stuff you can do it. Okay, so I'm till the minikube stuff you can install like kubectl and Docker. Okay, do that till there, then I'll explain about this particular issue, like how to install minikube. Okay, tomorrow at least do this configuration today. Okay, so I'm just sharing this to you. So just go through this one. Only install kubectl and the Docker. Okay, so minikube installation I'll let you know tomorrow. It's already time, that's the reason. Okay, so
Sir, can you
Even the same,
I'll ping it.
yeah,
I know.
even the same error comes in my system as well.
I'll just rectify it and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
This one. Yeah. So I shared it in all channels. Okay. So do that. So then tomorrow we'll install Minikube and do it. Okay. So what do we do tomorrow? Can we all join 7 a.m. so that we can have a 2-hour session? Is it possible, everyone?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Any no's?
I'm not sure.
Sir, please share the
Maybe, yeah.
link. Feb 10th.
Which one?
Feb 10th.
Feb 10th. Okay. I'll do that. That is fine. Paresh was saying no. No, or you're not sure?
I'm not sure, sir, because my office starts. Okay, anyways, that's fine. We will join. Not a problem.
So that we can have like see the reason why I'm saying is next week I don't think I can take 3-4 days. That's the reason we'll have 2-hour session per day. So most even on weekends we'll have it, so that it could come.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah. Then tomorrow 7 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah. Fine. Yeah. Thank you. So tomorrow we'll install Minikube and try to understand pod and other concepts. Okay. Thank you.
Prasad, please share that PPT. I want to go through the theory first.
Who is Abhishek? Is it?
Abhishek. Yeah.
Okay. Fine then. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes.
Thank
you. Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prasad. Prasad, even you can share the PPT with the 2 p.m. batch.
I'll share PPT in all the channels.
Yeah. Okay.